Hello everyone and welcome to the AOR Talkshow, but this is a special version. This is obviously the RX special edition of the Talkshow that we have announced a couple of weeks back on Twitter, and obviously, as the name says, we'll be taking care of the RX leagues on AOR. We're on the second season, and alongside me there's a new face. It's Matt212.
Hello, yes, guys. I'm looking forward to talking about the AOR RallyCross Leagues. They're brilliant fun on AOR. I would highly recommend signing up to them if you have done for. There's a lot of brilliant racing, all nicely over a short space of evening, over just one night of your week as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, indeed. And pretty much like last season, the calendar pretty much stays the same, with the season starting in Portugal, in Montalegre. Also, good to inform you that if you're watching this on the official highlights in Fizz's channel, that's fine. But if you're watching this on my channel or Matt's, which is purely the talk show, make sure you check out the official highlights to see all the coverage of the three platforms. We also have live streams for the races on Xbox and PS4. Xbox with Matt212, who is with me today, and Dan on the PS4 side of things. But before we kick it off, Matt, what can you tell us about this track?
So Montalegre is actually quite an interesting and unique circuit when it comes to the AOR World Rallycross calendar. It's actually quite a sandy-based circuit relative to a lot of the other tracks, and it's got a very tight first corner. The Joker lap is about 4 seconds worth of time, but there's a lot where it is quite a loose surface-based circuit. There is quite a lot of different lines drivers can take, a lot of overtaking opportunities. One of the circuits that it sort of is quite like sort of street circuit-esque, if you will. There's not a lot of extra room around the circuit, if you will. A lot of tire walls and very big curves that can catch you out. But brilliant for close side-by-side racing, and actually a lot of chances for overtaking on what is really one of the lower speed circuits on the calendar.
But just before we get into all the action, one final thing, obviously, for the newbies, including me. I have Matt here to help us out to understand how the format of the whole series works.
Yeah, so the format to the series is sort of fairly complicated, but also fairly simplistic if you look at it. Basically, all the drivers will take part in 2 heats. The first heat, they will obviously just be put in a random order. The heats, consist of 4 drivers, so they will be put in a random order in one of the heats. So if you've got, say, 16 drivers, they will be put into 4 heats. Now, the drivers from the first race then are ordered with their time at the end of the race, and then the top 4 times from the first heat will all go into a heat with each other during the second phase. Then obviously 5th to 8th will go in one, and then 9th to 12th and 13th to 16th. Now, the drivers are also awarded points for where they do finish relative to everyone else in their heats. Now, obviously, this is based on their times once more. And the top 12, after the 2 heats, the top 12 move through into the semi-finals. They're obviously the guys that have scored the most points. So even if you have a really bad first heat, if you have a really good time in your second heat, then it can really boost you back up the leaderboard. Now, obviously, the top 12, as I said, do move into the semi-finals. Now, the aim then, once you get into the semi-finals, is just to try and get the top 3. The semi-finals are split into lobbies of 6. So the aim then is to just try and get into the top 3, and that will leave you with, obviously, 6 drivers, 2 from each semi-finals into the finals, and obviously that is where they are given the final points. Points are awarded then. Obviously, the full point system is then awarded to the drivers there from the top 6. And then obviously they'll get 50 points for winning, and then obviously it goes down 45, 42, 40, 39, 38, etc, etc.
After all, it sounds complicated but easy at the same time, as you said. So, without further ado, let's get this action underway with Xbox One first.
Here we are then, ready on the grid for the first semi-final of Season 2. at Montalegre, Portugal, guys. We have got EP3 Murphy, that W, RC Extreme, Troy FMCG, Hayden, and I'm an Eagle in this first semi-finals of the night. And all these guys now need to do is try and get into the top 3, and they will reserve themselves a place in the finals for the first race of the series. Quite an interesting little lineup we've got here. A mix of old and new faces for the first semi-finals of the series. But we'll have to wait and see how these guys do fare. Actually, a little bit of rainy conditions here at Montalegre for this race this evening, guys. We're just waiting for Troy to ready up, and then we are good to go. We have got on board with EP3 Murphy on the front row here, and hopefully, for him, he can get off to a nice, clean start, and, hopefully for him, try to lead his way through this race. But, anything can happen in World Rallycross, guys, and I'm sure it certainly will. But here we are then on the grid, and it is lights out finally. No, just not yet. There we are. Finally lights out, and away we go there. Very, very slow on the start. But EP3 Murphy getting a good run down towards someone. The Peugeot alongside him getting squeezed out there as two drivers opt on the outside to go for their Joker. A little bit of contact, I think, between EP3 Murphy, the Ford, and the Peugeot just alongside him there. But he does hold on to the race lead. As for now here, we've got the Ford and the Peugeot right behind him, making a little bit of contact there. I think that might be that W and someone else, or I'm not 100% sure. Is that W, yep, in P2 in the Peugeot there, and Hayden in P3 in that Ford Focus. RC Extreme, who has opted to take his Joker, is now in P4 with Troy FMCG down in P5 at the moment. But, if these guys don't get held up too much, as Hayden there has had a bit of an issue. He's completely butchered the final chicane there, and that will have cost him a lot of time as we come down towards turn 1 on the second lap of this race, and that's most likely going to leave him, unfortunately, down at the very back of this field. So not exactly what he would have wanted from the semi-finals tonight. It'll be very, very unlikely if he's able to get much further in tonight's action after that unfortunate incident. But here we are following on with, I think this is Troy now, right behind RC Extreme there. He makes a little bit of contact with him there. RC Extreme nearly spinning the car all the way around. Troy going to try and dive there. A little bit of contact, a little bit of ghosting. Probably saved the pair of them there. But RC Extreme and Troy going as much as they possibly can, hammer and nail right at each other here as they move on to lap 3 of this race. And RC Extreme going to have a look down the inside there as Troy makes a bit of a mistake, and he does move back up into, I think that is provisional P4 of this race. We got, P3, as we have got EP3 Murphy and that W still leading the way. The W there has actually come out ahead of RC Extreme and Troy there, once they've all made their Joker. So now it's really just to try and wait and see about where EP3 Murphy will emerge. He was leading before he moved on into the Joker lap, so, perhaps for him, he should theoretically come out in the lead of this race. But, we'll have to wait and see how well these guys do all fare there. But I think that W is also looking very, very strong at the moment. RC Extreme and Troy both looking like they will be right on the cutoff here. It could be between these two to try and fight for the final place in the finals there. I'm an Eagle down in P5 there, and Hayden, obviously, after that big instant coming through the final chicane there, not really looking like tonight is going to be his night here. But, there's still a couple more laps to go in this race. We're only halfway through as of now, as following on, trying to get back up with the leader of this race, EP3 Murphy here. Going to be interesting to see, he still hasn't opted to take his Joker lap here, and I think, to be honest, he might just try and do it right at the very end of this race. Do what I always like to call, during Season 1, the shuffle strategy, where you just try to avoid all the carnage, stay out nicely comfortably in the lead, and hopefully aim, to try and gap your rivals in these races. But we'll have to wait and see how well, obviously, that does fare for him as we move on towards the end of this race here. EP3 Murphy still leading quite comfortably here, and there's just an element of he feels much more settled than a lot of drivers around this circuit. Very, very different in comparison to a lot of tracks on this game. But he now does dive it into his Joker lap here, and as we can hopefully have a look down his inside, there's going to be no real fight there. He's going to come out fairly close to the Peugeot of that W there, but EP3 Murphy is going to hold on to the race lead as for now. There are a little bit of a mistake coming through the next couple of corners here as we look behind him towards that W here. He's still trying to go for the race victory here, but I think EP3 Murphy might just be able to hold on here as we come through the final couple of corners of this lap here. He's just clipping all the apexes there, knocking over all the cones, and he comes through the final corner there. EP3 Murphy is going to be able to make it way into the finals there. So is that W, and I presume RC Extreme in P3 that are both going to make it through. Hayden and I'm an Eagle as they come now down into the final couple of corners that unfortunately just going to miss out there. But still a good result from those guys to make it through into the semis there. But EP3 Murphy, that W, RC Extreme have made it through into the finals. Unlucky for Troy, Hayden and Eagle there, as they have just missed out in the end there, guys. But let's move on then into semi-final 2. And now it is time to find out who will be joining the original 3 from semi-final 1. Here then, with Dangliciano on pole, hoping, for him that he can get through into the finals in week 1 of season 2 of the AOR RallyCross League here at Montalegre. But I think we are on board with Icebergs, if I'm not mistaken, who is starting in P4 on the grid. Only 5 people in this race. We've got Infinite just behind him. But here we are then on the grid, and it's lights out, and away we go. And Infinite off to a very good start there, trying to separate the 2 guys on the second row. But down towards turn 1 here, Icebergs and Infinite there are both going to opt to take their Joker, but Infinite has run way too deep down into the corner there. That's going to cost him a little bit of time, but Icebergs has come out of that quite strong, actually, in the early stages of this race. And as we now have a look further up the grid, we've got GSY Davey there, and there's been contact further behind there. I think that was one car facing the wrong way. I think that was that Dangliciano there, the pole man, unfortunately now way down the order, down in last place there. Unfortunately, not too sure what did unfortunately happen to him there down on at that one of this race. It might have been a bit of contact with, I think it was Chukemaster, that was the other guy right at the front of this race, but I don't know for sure as we now move on into lap 2 here. And Icebergs now is going to make up another position, as we've got another driver there of, I think that is GSY Davey, opting to take his Joker lap there early on in the race. But Chukemaster currently then leading the way in his Peugeot here. And this is looking, is he going to go opt for the shuffle strategy that we saw so many times in season 1? We will have to wait and see. But Icebergs now is all over the back of Infinite here, and hoping for him he can try and make a move up on him. Obviously they only need the top 3 to get through into the finals tonight, but any extra position, especially when they've got GSY Davey barging them in the rear. But there's contact then between Icebergs and Infinite down towards turn 1 there. Not really ideal for either of them. They've both run a bit deep. Infinite there has come out a little bit better off than Icebergs, as he holds it right around the outside through turn 2 there. But very big impact for the pair of them there. It looks like they might have both come out unscathed from that, but it has definitely helped out GSY Davey out of all 3 of them there, as he's just been able to move straight past these 2. And for him, he wants these 2 just behind to continue battling, and hopefully try and keep Dangliciano a little bit further behind. But as we now move on to lap 3 of the race here, going to be interesting to see what does happen on these last couple of laps of this race. Going to be interesting to see as well where Chukemaster does opt to come out there, but Icebergs thinks about going for a move down the inside of Infinite there, but not able to make that position stick. Dangliciano here, he's sort of just got to wait in the rears here, sort of just wait, see if there's another instant there, and try and go for a move, but that is certainly not the line he wanted through the next couple of corners there. That'll cost him just a little bit of time here, and we'll have to wait and see how well he does fare, because he's either got the option of waiting for these guys to come together once more, or just having to take matters into his own hands there, as there's a little bit of lag through that final corner there. I think that's a little bit of lag there from Dangliciano there, but I think he's moved past Icebergs now. I've got Infinite here just ahead of him. There's contact between these 2 even more here, and down now towards the next corner there. Infinite and Dangliciano have come together there. Dangliciano has been left facing the wrong way there on the Armco barrier. Definitely not what he would have wanted from this race there. He'll be absolutely devastated there. 2 instants in this race, that basically, he could almost kiss goodbye to his hopes of getting through now into the finals in the first week of season 2 of this series. But Infinite, he's still looking strong here, up in, I think, net P3, as Chuk still has yet to make his Joker lap here, and it's going to be interesting to see when he does opt to do that. Infinite not taking the perfect line through turn 1 there. I think once again there's actually a bit of lag. But having a look further up, we got GSY Davey still holding it down in P2 at the moment, looking very, very strong. And Chukemaster, he's sort of just been able to run away with this race on the whole, and I think he's coming now down towards the final couple of corners of this race. But GSY Davey has done very, very well there to come through in P2 there, obviously make his way into the finals there as he hits the wall through the final corner there. And I think, unfortunately, Dangliciano is not going to make it through into the finals there. But Chuk, Davey and Infinite join the original 3 in the finals. So here we are then, guys, for the final race here at Montalegre. We are joined by EP3 Murphy, Chukemaster, that W, GSY Davey, RC Extreme, and Infinity, guys, ready for the finals. This will give them a huge confidence boost through to the rest of the season if they are able to take home a victory in the first race of this series, guys. But who will come out victorious? Obviously, Shuffle was able to win this race in Season 1, but he is no longer racing in this series. I think we are on board with EP3 Murphy in his Ford Fiesta as we're on the inside having a look towards turn 1, guys. But we are nearly ready then on the grid, ready for the start of this race, and it's lights out and away we go there. And EP3 Murphy onto a very, very clean start on the run down towards turn 1 here. Going to be interesting to see the two Peugeots, I think that is, on the outside, but Murphy's been tagged by Infinite there, as the two Peugeots on the outside did opt to take their jokers, but Murphy, using the all-wheel drive there, somehow able to come back through into the lead of the race. There's contact between GSY Davy and Infinity there, just a little bit further back, and somehow, after all of that, EP3 Murphy got absolutely, smashed up the rear down at turn 1 there, but somehow come out of that unscathed there, so very, very well done to him there. I think he's got that W just behind him here as he comes to the end of lap 1 there, and a lot of contact in the early stages of this race. RC Extreme is just behind him. I think Infinite is just down in P4 still at the moment. The game really struggling to work out who is where, but Infinite now is opting to take his joker here, and he's going to come out right next to Chuke, I think that is. He throws it up the inside there. Contact made by the pair of them there. That'll definitely not be what Chuke would have wanted there, and Infinite, he's sort of, I think he's waited up for him there, and now as we can see through the next corner there, Duke just barges him in the rear there. Have some of that, I think that almost is. From what I gathered, there was actually a bit of lag there, but yeah, Duke definitely not happy with that one. That sent him way down towards the bottom of the field there. Infinite, if I'm not mistaken now, has opted to retire from the race there. It wasn't really his day there, is now through the final corner there. He has actually, waited up for Chuke Mass there, so Infinite really, really lagging, unfortunately, at the moment. But EP3 Murphy is still leading the race as we got that W trying to attack him there. EP3 Murphy just defending on the inside through the next couple of corners there. That W trying to do anything he can, to try and get up into the race lead here. We'll have to wait and see. Still 4 more laps to go in this final race here at Montalegre. Anything can happen. This is Rallycross, and anything usually does as we move on to lap 3 of the race. And that W is actually going to opt to take his joker lap now as he comes down towards someone here. He's going to lose a couple more positions, but he's going to come out just ahead, I think that is, of GSY Date. Sorry, I think that is RC Extreme, if I'm not mistaken, actually, who he's just come out ahead of there. So very, very well done to that W. It's going to be interesting to see how he does face up once all these guys have done their joker laps. I think he's got GSY Davy, who is just ahead of him here as they come to the end of lap 3 here. Halfway through this race already, and GSY Davy, he's still looking very, very strong in this. He's always been right at the front there, but he's only able to take home 1 race victory, which, if I'm not mistaken, was the final race in Season 1 at Lohiak. But coming through turn 1 there, that W trying to look down the inside there, but unable to make anything happen there. And now, he's sort of just got to follow on. There's not really a lot of overtaking opportunities at Montalegre. These guys sort of have to file through one by one here, and it's not exactly what they will want to do. Unfortunately, Montalegre, quite a different circuit to a lot of the other races in this series. These guys, it's quite a, it's not very grippy kind of track. Obviously, you've got this little bit of tarmac as that GSY Davy rubs up to the wall, but a lot of this track is actually, very, very sandy there. Not a lot of grip, but Davy now is going to come right alongside EP3 Murphy there. Murphy just about holding on to the lead of the race there, and still, he's showing really, really good form and pace in the start of Season 2 here. And GSY Davy, sort of as he kicks at the back end there, a little bit of lag there as GSY Davy nearly, nearly did an endo there on the end of lap 4 of this race, but he's still very, very close here. A little bit of contact with the wall there, and that'll really, really screw his momentum there. Infinite is not really too sure what's going on to him there, but GSY Davy comes through in P2. RC Extreme, I think, that W comes through in P3 there. RC Extreme, I think, only able to come through in P4, and Shootmaster will come through in P5. So the Xbox side of things then in the first week of the series was very, very interesting. Shuffle, the reigning champion, opted to leave the league, which meant that, it was sort of a level playing field for a lot of the other drivers. EP3 Murphy, as you would have seen there, able to take, I wouldn't say a shock win, but quite a surprise win based on his Season 1. He's really been able to up the ante moving on into Season 2. Two of his big rivals that you would have seen prominently in the lead of Season 1 were GSY Davey and RC Extreme. Those two now as teammates for Season 2 were looking very, very strong there. GSY Davey able to come through in P2 there, and unfortunately RC Extreme having a little bit worse of a race there. You know, he personally always aims for podiums, but was only able to come through in P4 from week 1. One of the new guys at that W, actually, very, very new to the series. They're able to get P3 in the first race worth of action. You know, he's been able to bring something a little bit extra to the new season, and his teammate Shootmaster, who some of you will have seen last season, able to get through in P5 there as well. Infinity, unfortunately, having a couple of lag issues here and there, had to retire from the finals race and ended up coming through in P6 there. But it was very, very interesting, you know, sort of a bit of a reshuffle when it came to the calendar. Obviously, EP3 Murphy unable to make next week's race at Lydden Hill there, so obviously he really needed to try and get all the points he possibly could in week 1 there. GSY Davey seems to have upped his pace just a little bit as well, moving on into the second season there. He's looking a little bit quicker than RC Extreme, his teammate here. And you know, those two in Season 1 were so close, but it usually seemed that RC Extreme would just about get ahead of him there. That W and Shootmaster there also looking very, very strong. Like, they've upped the ante moving on into Season 2. They were always sort of just about able to get through into the finals. You know, if the racing went their way, then they'd make it through. If it didn't, then they wouldn't. So quite interesting to see, you know, those two making it quite comfortably into the finals in week 1 of the series there. And Infinity, unfortunately, just a little bit further back there after having connection issues there, still solidly getting through into the finals.
Yeah, it was indeed quite a good start in terms of action, I would say, for Xbox One. But now it's time to take a look to our second platform, and that is PS4.
So hello everyone, and you've joined us at the semi-final stage of this AOR RallyCross Season 2 Round 1 here at Montalegre, Portugal. This is the first semi-final. We've got GR Demon lining up alongside Manuel Wabib, or I'll be referring to him as Catfish, as it's just a bit easier to say. They'll be on the front row, joined by Tybertech as well, who I think is in P3. And we're just going to get ready for the lights to go out here. Obviously, the top 3 from this semi-final will progress to the final as we're underway here. And Tybertech seems to get a jump start there by the looks of it. But we're heading down towards turn 1, and Catfish immediately goes onto the Joker. GR Demon has lost a lot of positions from the start of this race. Tybertech is into the lead, and GR Demon immediately under pressure from Magnussen. And they're going side by side. Great racing here, more wheel banging. But GR Demon down into P3. Obviously, we need to see where Catfish emerges after everyone else has done the Joker. But this is not a great start. We could see GR Demon going down from first down to 4 if he's not able to recover in this race as we head through the final few chicanes here at Montalegre. And Magnussen is putting Tybertech under some severe pressure. Obviously, if Tybertech did indeed jump the start, then he'll have to take 2 Jokers during this race. But if it's just an unfortunate situation in lag, then hopefully the timing screen will resolve themselves as Magnussen and GR Demon once again more wheel bangers to take the Joker, and Catfish has emerged ahead of both of them. Still side by side, but GR Demon will have the inside line now. Oh my god! They're both off the track at certain points. Magnussen has gone really wide. That's dropped him behind even. I don't know who that is actually. There's more cars banging its wheels, and it's still side by side. Great racing once again. Magnussen back up the inside and back up into P4, but he's going to have to take at least one more car if he wants to try and get himself into the semi-finals here as we go through the final few chicanes there. But back with Tybertech in the lead, and he has indeed taken his Joker and will drop behind Catfish and GR Demon. But I think he'll emerge in P3, which is all he needs to emerge to go into the final, as Tybertech is right behind GR Demon as we go through here. Obviously 6 laps in this semi-finals. In the heats they only did 4 laps, but an increased number of laps obviously just to make sure that we get the right drivers going through to the finals. We once again come towards the end of the 3rd lap here at Montalegre, and everyone seems to be settling down into some positions. GR Demon lost a lot of time at the start of this race, so we'll probably struggle to challenge Catfish for the win. But it's all about these top 3 making sure they don't make any mistakes in the remainder part of this race, and that will mean they'll progress into the final as once again head through the chicanes. It's a very difficult track at Montalegre. I know a lot of the drivers find this one of the most challenging on this rallycross season, as we follow Tybertech into these sort of double apex hairpin and then it's the chicanes that complete the lap at Montalegre. And we don't know how far Magnussen is behind from this POV as we cut back to him now. He's struggling to keep up with DiRT actually, and he's looking more and more good for the top 3 to progress into the finale. But I think obviously with DiRT having that jump start, then it could come down to just race times, because his lights probably went out earlier on his screen. So if Magnussen stays roughly within a second, then he might still have a chance of progressing, as he hits that apex very nicely there, just making sure the rear end steps out enough, because if you oversteer too much, then obviously you're just going to cost yourself time. As we cut back to Catfish using this cockpit cam very immersive through here, you can see how limited visibility he's got, but he clearly feels that it's good enough for him to provide some good pace, and that is clearly shown as he's out into the lead of this race. And we're on to the final lap at this point, so as long as he doesn't make any major mistakes, then he should win this semi-final one. As we cut back to DiRT, who is slowly pulling away from Magnussen just behind him, as GR Demon is well out in front of him now. So it's going to be interesting in the final if GR Demon can try and compete with Catfish, but we'll obviously have to see who progresses from the second semi-final as Catfish crosses the line to win this semi-final Heat 1. DiRT comes home in P3, I think, as we cut back to Dus and Triebet. And I think he's the last of the finishers. He crosses the line down in 6th place. That was an enthralling first semi-final. So it's Catfish taking the win here with a race time of 3 minutes and 42. GR Demon second with 3 minutes 44. DiRT 3 minutes 48. Finishes 1.5 seconds ahead of Magnussen, with the 4 chicks coming in 5th and Distant Treebit in 6th, as we now cut to the second semi-final. So we've got Jamie, Alex, both on the front row. We're expecting them to both qualify, but then it's an interesting battle behind them, as we're now on board with RBOS. Limpu and Racing at Home will all be looking to try and get into that top 3. Only 5 in this semi-final, unfortunately, due to the lack of numbers for this first round. So it gives them more of an opportunity to qualify as we get underway here. It's a very decent start from RBOS, but not in the second phase, and Limpu has managed to get back up into P3 as we head down towards turn 1. Limpu very close to Alex by the looks of it, as he goes onto the Joker as well as Racing at Home. So these guys clearly feeling that is the correct tactic to try and get this Joker out of the way, because obviously it gets Limpu into some clean air if he wants to try and jump off RBOS, as we're on board with Alex, who's already lost a fair bit of time to Jamie. It's worth noting obviously that these semi-finals are held in light rain conditions. The heats were held in clear conditions, so that obviously means the conditions are slightly different for these drivers. As we cut back to RBOS, who is staying very close to Alex, actually losing a little bit of time through that final chicane. But based on the heats, we would expect Jamie and Alex to both qualify for the final, as I think that's RBOS going on to the Joker now. And I want to see how he emerges in comparison to Limpu. He's actually lost a lot of time. There's contact with Racing at Home. He's round, and that has surely put paid to any chance that RBOS has got of getting into the finale here, as he's all the way down in 5th and a long way behind as Limpu hits the wall. And gosh, I like they're all making mistakes out there. It's clearly struggling with the conditions. Jamie out front though, he's looking very good as we head through the final few chicanes on board with Limpu. Really getting a lot of oversteer there. That's definitely not the most optimal way to take that, but he's still looking decent in P3. Obviously, he's already taken his Jokers, so there's no real opportunities for the guys behind him to find a way past. Unless he makes any sort of mistake. Because oh my god, let's talk about mistakes. That is a very interesting line, very wide. And I don't know, I think that's Racing at Home right behind him here, who's really getting a lot of time. And he can't afford to make any more mistakes. He's hit the wall. Oh my god, he's everywhere. He's trying to hit the apex of that. He can't be making any more mistakes. I think Rody on lap 2 or 3 here, and he's already made so many errors. He's losing the car through there, and Racing at Home is going to have a good opportunity down onto the turn 1. He'll have the outside line, but Limpu is able to defend on the inside. We've got Racing at Home up the inside, losing the rear end slightly though, as we cut back to Jamie, who's a long way ahead. He's already on lap 4, obviously they all are, but he's a nearly completed lap 4 here, and he's looking very good out front, clearly adapting to these wet weather conditions very well as he goes on to the start of lap 5 now. He's obviously already done his Joker, as has Alex, so yeah, it's not looking good for the rest of these guys as Racing at Home struggles to keep up with Limpu now, as he's clearly made less mistakes on this lap 4 as we head on to the penultimate lap here. And down into turn 1 once again, the spray You can clearly see that the rain does affect the drivers slightly. There's definitely less grip, but nevertheless, it looks like Limpo is slowly starting to adapt to these conditions and is cementing his P3. But Racing at Home will keep trying to put him under pressure because we know Limpo is very much prone to mistakes. We haven't seen what's happened to RBOS, but obviously he lost a lot of time with that spin after the Joker. As we try and cut through the drivers here. So Alex hadn't taken his Joker, actually. I do apologise about that. So he clearly hadn't taken his Joker, but I think will still emerge in P2 and comfortably. So, yeah, that's him clearly into the finale as long as there's no major mistakes. As Jamie is a long, long way ahead. You can clearly see how much he's dominating these race. Loving these conditions right now in Montalegre. And back to Alex in P2. And Limpo is, a long way behind. And it looks like he's slowly started to drop Racing at Home. Did get the sense that he had the pace over him, but it was just a case of him making sure he didn't make any more mistakes. He's actually finished this race here. So we're back with RBOS down in 5th. He's been catching Racing at Home, who actually is going to pass him on the line. Racing at Home has spun as we headed onto the finish line. Oh, God, that's a disaster for him, but won't cost him anything because he wasn't going to qualify for the finale anyway. But Jamie takes a very impressive win of a time with 3 minutes and 38. That was 3 seconds faster than Catfish, so he's looking good heading into the finale. We've got Alex in P2 with Limpo making up the finale. So here we are for the final race here. We'll have Catfish on pole. He'll be alongside Jamie. And then we'll have GR Demon and Alex, I believe, on the second row, with Tyrotech and Limpo making up this finale. So on board with Jamie here, he'll have the outside line for turn 1. I wonder if that will mean he'll think about taking the Joker as we get underway here. And he's definitely got the better start on Catfish. And Catfish has lost a lot of positions here, under pressure from GR Demon. Both of them bail out to go, well, Catfish and I think Alex it was who bailed out onto the Joker. On board now with Alex. It's really difficult to tell, judging by these live timings here, who we're actually on board with. But it looks like Catfish is into P4. I think Jamie, GR Demon and Tyrotech were the only ones that chose to stay out. Obviously, this final now held in heavy rain conditions, so there's even less grip for the drivers out there. But Jamie, once again, seems to be adapting very well to this wet weather, as GR Demon is under pressure from Tyrotech as we complete lap 1 here. And GR Demon seemingly struggling in these conditions at the start of the race. Oh my God, Tyrotech gets very close as he goes onto the Joker. We saw how close Catfish got on lap 1 to him, and Tyrotech got nearly just as close as he comes out and down into last. Has been jumped by everyone who took their Joker on lap 1, so he's down into last, and that's bad news for GR Demon, because that means he's going to put in a very, very good lap in the next few laps if he wants to take his Joker and emerge in any sort of decent position. As I think that we're on board with Catfish there, back with Alex, who's doing very well in this finale. He didn't perform that way in the semi-final, lost a lot of time to James, but he's sort of keeping up with Catfish right now, so that's reasonably impressive pace for him as we go down towards turn 1. Catfish really not suiting these conditions by the looks of it. He's slightly getting dropped by both GR Demon and Jamie, who obviously have both still got to complete their Joker, but Jamie out front is looking very good in these conditions as we come back to the guy in P2, GR Demon, as we head through this hairpin corner and then into the chicanes to complete lap 3 here. And I wonder when these drivers are going to start thinking about taking the Joker. I wonder if they'll save it for the very last lap, if they just want to make sure that they'll emerge in a decent position as we head down into turn 1 once again with GR Demon, and he has not gone onto the Joker. So it looks like these drivers may be sending their Joker for the right end of the race, maybe hoping for some battling between Alex and Catfish to make sure they keep it their 1-2 position. But Jamie out front, I think even if he took his Joker, then he'd probably still emerge out into the lead, as Catfish has definitely lost a lot of time to GR Demon in his life. And Alex is sticking very close to him. This is very impressive pace, I have to say. And Limpo, after he made so many mistakes in the semi-final, has definitely rectified those. This is a much more impressive showing. Don't know where Tyrotech is in all of this. I think he'll be sadly finishing in P6 in this race. But back with Alex, and he's very close to Catfish through turn 1. He's looking up the inside, but Catfish took him that wider line, will get a better exit, and that means that he'll have to stop down into P4, I think it is for the time being. But back with, I don't know who this is actually. I think this is Catfish, but nevertheless, we're going round the final few corners here at Montalegre once again. And I don't know how far Jamie is ahead. He can't actually see him. He's that far ahead. He's already at turn 1, actually, and goes on to the Joker. I don't know if we're all on the last lap, actually, here. And I think we probably are, because GR Demon as well is taking his Joker. So this is crucial. Let's see where he emerges in relation to Catfish. And I think that's Catfish just ahead of him. He's managed to get ahead of Alex. So not a great lap there from Alex. He's lost a lot of time to Catfish, and that's allowed GR Demon to slot in between them. I wonder if GR Demon can find any way past him now through this final few sequence of corners. And it doesn't look like he'll be able to find a way on this. Oh my god, he tries to dive up the inside. There's a bit more contact there. But I think he'll have to settle down into P3. Alex is going to come home in P4. A very impressive showing. And we've got DiRT, who will complete the standings here for this finale. Comes home in P6. But it's Jamie once again impressing in the wet weather conditions. Takes a win here with a time of 3 minutes and 40. Catfish comes home with a time of 3:41.1 in P2. GR Demon in P3. Alex comes home in P4. Limpu P5. And DiRT completes the standings here for this finale in P6.
Right, so on the PS4 side of things, we had still the reigning champion Jamie compared to Xbox, who didn't have a reigning champion. But he didn't start as favorite for the weekend, as Demon managed to win the first heat in front of the Welshman. And also very strong performance from Catfish onwards after a disastrous first heat. But on the semi-finals it was a showdown between Catfish and Demon, while Jamie was on the other one facing Alex, probably the top 4 favourites realistically for this year's championship. But it would all come out in the final, where we would see maybe a not so good strategy, or maybe it was just a bad start. There was a few laggy incidents in terms of connections, but that was mainly seen on the heats. On the semi-finals and finals, as usual, I guess, we saw a lot of people taking their Joker on the first laps, but Jamie eventually taking a different approach and winning the final by taking the Joker on the final laps of the event, and then taking the win at Portugal, which is a fair win. Realistically, it was a bit of a disappointment for Demon as well, who was looking like a very strong contender for the win. Then it was Catfish finishing behind the reigning champion Jamie, and Alex in 4th with decent races also for Limpu and DiRT, who got into the final with secure performances but not outstanding, let's just say that. But that was what happened on PS4, and now it's time to take a final look at what happened on the PC.
So here we are then on the grid, ready for the first semi-final of the evening. We have got Marcy, Nightwatch, Richie, Serene Logic, Franco De Rose, and we are almost ready then for the start of this race. We're going to start on board with this wonderfully pink and blue Peugeot here of Richie, starting in the middle of row 2 here on the grid, almost ready to go now. All the engines revving up, ready to start this 6-lap race. All these guys need to do is get into the top 3, and it's a lights out, and away we go. And Richie off to actually a pretty decent start there. I think Marcy is going to lead the way down in towards turn 1 here, but Richie is going to opt to take his Joker lap there. So does Franco De Rose and Nightwatch there. All 3 of them opting to take their Joker lap nice and early on in this race, and as they come through at the end of the Joker. For these 3 now, it's crucial that they don't try to fight each other too much in the early stages of this race. Try to hold on and close back up to the top 3 at this moment in time as they come through towards the end of lap 1 here. You can see the top 2, they haven't really got a 4-second lead at the moment, and that's roughly how much the Joker does really cost. But on board then with the Ford Focus RS RX here, it makes a little bit of contact with the wall through that final corner there, but these guys need to try and get top 3 here. Only 5 drivers in this heat. And you can see the other two have opted to take their Joker. They're on board with Richie. You can see Nightwatch just comes out behind Marcy there, but he comes out right behind Serene Logic there and coming through the next couple of corners here and getting very, very close between the pair of them there. Logic runs a little bit wide there, parks it in front of the Peugeot there, and nowhere really for him to go there. A little bit more contact made between the Seat and the Peugeot, but there's squabbling going on right at the very front once more here. As you can see, unfortunately, the Ford Focus, they're not getting a perfect run through the final couple of corners there. We've got the Peugeot still all over the back of the Seat, just ahead of him. They're getting a little bit loose through the final corner now, but all these guys have taken their Joker laps very, very early on in this race. You know, it is now just a pure race for position. Franco Droz just a little bit further back, you know, still waiting to pounce if the opportunity does arrive. And you can see Marcy still starting to pull away a little bit at the front of the field here. You know, he's holding on quite nicely in the lead of this race here. And, you know, for him now, it's just about trying to keep it nice and tidy through the next couple of laps there. But the Seat just running a little bit wide of Logic there through in towards the final sector, if you will, of the lap. But the Ford Focus RSRX still trying to pile on the pressure to our leader at the moment. You know, it's still looking fairly strong from him as they come through onto lap 4 now. You can see the Ford Fiesta still just a little bit further up the road. You know, he's doing everything he needs to. And for these guys now, do they opt to fight, or do they just try and hold on to position? Marcy still leading quite comfortably at the moment. You know, for him, he doesn't need to have any fight with anyone, you know, to try and get through into the finals. But Franco Droz does really, really need people to start fighting just ahead of him here. You know, he's still within pouncing distance if mistakes are made, but at the moment, it's not looking particularly good for him. Like, he's only going to be able to hold on to P5 in this race. So they come through to end at lap 4. Marcy is still leading the way with 2 laps to go of this 6-lap sprint here. You can see, you know, all these guys are still very, very close. So, and you can see Richie just ahead of him. You know, he needs to try and get past Serene Logic if he wants to get into the finals here. And you'll have to wait and see how well it does work out for him. You can see he's getting closer and closer as Serene Logic makes a couple of mistakes there on towards the end of lap 5 here. A little bit of contact's been made there. Richie almost getting spanned there, somehow able to keep the car facing the right direction there. But these guys, you know, it's really starting to heat up. They both want to get through into the finals here, and whether they're going to be able to do so or not is going to be a very different question. And nearly even more contact made between the pair of them there as they try to take alternate lines onto the final lap of the race they go now. And now down towards turn 1 here, Richie, you know, he's only got to try and get past Serene Logic there. He makes another mistake through turn 1 here. Seat versus Peugeot. Who's going to get through into the final? Serene all over the curbs, and Richie dives it down the inside of him there, somehow making that move work there. Just barely able to squeeze down his inside there, but Richie moves up into the podium positions here. I think Marcy is going to come through to take home the win there, up into the finals there. Nightwatch is going to come through in P2 there, but Richie just going to be able to go for that last lap move and up and earn himself a place in the finals there, just ahead of Serene Logic there. And Franco Droz, unfortunately, down in P6 at the end of that first semi-final there. Unfortunate for him and Franco Droz, unable to make it through into the finals there, but Marcy, Nightwatch and Richie have all made it through into the final. So here we are then, ready for the second semi-final. Going to be interesting to see who will join our first 3 here from Montalegre. And, you know, these guys all raring to go. All they need to do once more is get into that top 3, and they have earned themselves a place in the final. At the back of the grid, though, we are on board with Jess, ready for the start of this race. All these guys, you know, desperate to try and make it through into the finals here. But on the grid then, it's 3 lights ready to go. And we are lights out, and finally away we go there, off to a very, very slow start. Unfortunately, Jess there bogging down absolutely massively off the start there. That'll not exactly be the run she would have wanted down towards turn 1 here. But Mad Dog on the outside with Barry Kimmy, both opting to take their Jokers in their 2 little Seats here. And you can see we got Roadrunner right behind Pottersman, you know, one of the leading drivers from this series towards the end of lap 1 here. You know, they're just trying to hold as close to each other as they possibly can. You know, for these guys now, they need to try and make a gap between them, Barry, Kimmy, Mad Dog and Jess. And, you know, for them, it could be nice and straightforward into the finals. But we shall see. You know, anything can happen in Rallycross, and as we saw from the first semi-final, it always tends to happen. They're getting as close as he possibly can to the wall on the end of a lap 1 here. But having a look just from the third-person camera there, and you see the leaders run wide there, and Roadrunner just able to slip by there. No, he's not. You know, the 4-wheel drive system from that Seat working out perfectly there, and he's able to just about hold on to the race lead for now. You know, there's so many alternate lines you can take in these races, and for these guys, you know, they really do want to try and keep it nice and clean between all of them there, and Pottisman still leading the way. We've got Barry Kimmy just a little bit further back here, able to close up to these guys, even though he's already taken his Joker here, and he's already piling on the pressure once more to the front two here, and this is working out wonderfully for Barry Kimmy here. What do the top two do? Do they opt to take their Joker, or do they just try and stay out and try and hold on for now? Mad Dog 40 just a little bit further back. See, he's holding on quite nicely to P4 at the moment as he comes through. Turn 1 running a little bit wide there, but still able to use the four-wheel drive system to get himself through the corner here. But Roadrunner still holding on right behind Pottisman here. The gap less than a second, but they've both got Barry Kimmy piling on the pressure just behind them here. And, hopefully for these two, if they can try and make the moves nice and soon, Barry Kimmy is looking like he might be able to make it through into the finals here, unless he ends up with an issue here. And for Pottisman now, he sort of needs Roadrunner to try and hold up Barry Kimmy for him here. Neither of them opt to take their Joker on the start of lap 4 of this race here. So these two trying to go as long as they possibly can in this race to try and hold on to the positions they can. Going to be interesting to see where Mad Dog and Jess do come out in all of this as well, because these three aren't really fighting, but you get the sense that they are sort of slowing each other down just a bit. For Barry Kimmy, that really doesn't matter there, as I think there's a lapped car in the way now. Jess, unfortunately, they're having lots of issues during this race, just trying to keep out of the way there. Fortunately, the ghosting system working wonders as well there, and no instance from these guys. Is Jess, unfortunately, unable to, to try and control the back end there as they come now on to lap 5, and we got a Roadrunner there opting to dive it through the Joker lap here. Where's he going to come out in relation to Mad Dog there? I think he is just going to come just ahead of him there, if I'm not mistaken. Still holding on to P3 at the moment there, as you see on board. I think this is still with Barry Kimmy here, and he's closing in on Pottisman at the moment as they come through on towards the final couple of laps of this race here. You can see Pottisman still leading the way nice and comfortably at the moment. Any mistake and he could be way down the order. Mad Dog, dropping a little bit further back there as he's now going past Jess. And unfortunately, it looks like he's a little bit too far behind Roadrunner unless he makes quite a big mistake on this final lap of the race there. Through turn 1 he goes, and it's see Pottisman has just come out ahead of him there. So Roadrunner, Barry Kimmy there, does lead the race. After everyone has done their Jokers, the whole field has been filtered out there. And it's looking, Barry Kimmy seemed very, very strong in this second semi-final here. He's looking like he's going to be able to make it through into the finals there. So does Pottisman and Roadrunner there, as unfortunately Jess and Mad Dog had a few issues during that race. But there we are then. Into the semi-final they go. Barry Kimmy, Pottisman and Roadrunner all making it through into the finals there. Mad Dog 40, unfortunate not to make it through there. Just a couple of little mistakes on his race there. Unfortunately left him outside of the top 3 there. And unfortunately for Jess as well, a few issues during that race there. Unfortunately, it sort of all went wrong from the start after, unfortunately. She had a little bit of issues trying to start the car there, but still coming through in P5 there. Good on still making it into the semi-finals there, but through the final corner she comes, and unfortunately it is going to just be P5 in that race there. So Barry Kimmy, Pottisman and Roadrunner all make it through into the finals there, and it's going to be interesting to see who will come out victorious in the end. So here we are then, ready for the finals of Week 1, Season 2 here at Montalegre. All these guys have done everything they can to try and get into the finals, but this is really where the big points do come into play. Heavy, heavy rain for this final race of the evening here, and we're on board with Richie on the start. All these guys are revving up, ready to go for the final race here at Montalegre. Season 2, these guys want to get a good, strong start to the season, and we are finally lights out, and away we go there. And Richie not getting off to a particularly good start there. Roadrunner on his outside, trying to have a look down towards turn 1 there, but they all sort of filter out in the end, trying to keep it clean. The 4 drivers opt to take their Joker. There's a bit of contact between Richie and Pottisman there as they're still going side by side there, just about keep it clean through the exit of the Joker there, but a lot of contact between the pair of them there. Roadrunner, unfortunately, they're just getting caught out a little bit further behind there, but Pottisman runs a little bit wide through the next couple of corners there, and it's looking like Richie might try and go for a bit of a switchback move here, trying to go diving it now down the inside there. Unfortunately, not able to make that position stick right when he wanted to there, but he's still trying to look down the inside there, parks it in front of Pottisman there. A little bit of ghosting going on as these guys all getting all into the way of each other, and Marcy and Nightwatch here, as well as Barry Kimmy. This is looking very, very good for these guys, as these back 3 do try to fight with each other. So for Nightwatch now and Barry Kimmy there, as Pottisman dives it down the inside of Richie, but he just goes First switchback there, side by side as they come through the next couple of corners there. There's even more contact as these two rubbing and racing against each other here. You know, this is brilliant, brilliant to see. And Roadrunner probably has got the best view in the house here as they come through towards the end of lap 2 here. You know, if these guys come together even more, make a mistake or whatever, you know, he can just try and slip by the pair of them here. Don't really want to get caught up in their battle, but sort of still wants to try and make moves as Pottersman and Roadrunner there both go into that Armco barrier to the end of lap 2 there. That will cost them both a bit of time, but for the front two at the moment, you know, these guys have just been able to absolutely run away. You know, the guys at the back of the field still fighting with each other. You know, for the top two, they haven't opted to take their Joker early on in the race, and they're still holding on quite nicely. Barry Kimmy as well, you know, he sort of was able to get away from the other three fighting at the back. He's already opted to take his Joker, so he is looking very, very strong here as they come through towards the end of lap 3 of the race. And Roadrunner and Pottersman now are starting to look like they might be starting to have a bit of a battle. Richie able to try and make a bit of a gap towards the pair of them there, and you know, it's looking a bit more comfortable for him. Marcy now has opted to take his Joker there, so he's going to come out a little bit further behind his main rivals in this race. But coming towards the end of the next lap of this race here, you know, got this little Ford Fiesta trying to close back down on the Ford Focus RS RX, an absolutely huge car, that Ford Focus. It's quite surprising to know that Fiesta can actually go up against it there. But coming through towards the end of the next lap of this race here, you know, these guys still holding it quite nicely, you know, line astern. A little bit of a gap between the pair of them here, but they're still holding on at this moment in time, you know, trying to get, you know, good solid points in the first race there, as the leader has run massively wide there through turn 1, somehow just like coming out in the lead of the race there. A bit of contact made between the pair of them there, and you know, somehow he's able to still hold on to the lead of that race there. You know, it can only help but think that little bit of contact probably did, you know, solidify him still in the race lead at this moment in time. But through the next couple of corners they go, and you know, it's looking fairly good for these front two at the moment. You know, a little bit of contact has been made between the pair of them there, but they're still holding on quite nicely at the moment as we skip on to lap 5 now. I think this might be lap 5 or lap 6 of the race, and the leader now opting to take his Joker lap here. This is obviously going to inherit their lead to this Ford Focus driver as they come through on the end of lap 5 there, I think that is. You can see Barry Kimmy just a little bit further behind here, still ready to pounce if the opportunity does arise. He's already obviously made his Joker lap, so it's looking like he should be nice and steady in the lead of the race here, unless he gets caught out behind the Ford there. But Roadrunner and Pottersman are still very, very close to each other. You know, this is looking very, very feisty between the pair of them there. Richie holding on to P4 at the moment there, but through the final corner, Marcy able to win the race there ahead of Barry Kimmy and Nightwatch there. Richie P4 in that race with Pottersman P5 and Roadrunner in P6 there. But that is the end of week 1 of season 2 of the AOR World Rallycross League. Marcy able to take home a good haul of points there ahead of Barry Kimmy, Nightwatch, Richie, Pottersman and Roadrunner there, guys. But hopefully, you know, you guys have enjoyed these PC highlights. Ryan, I assure you, will be back next week to commentate on even more of the action. Season 1's champion Race Fanatic has decided, just like X Shuffled from the Xbox side of things, that he would no longer take part in the series there. And the highest ranked driver from Season 1, who is still actually competing in the series, was Julian, was also unable to make it through to the races this week there, which actually left, you know, quite an opening for a few other drivers to try and score some good points. Richie was one of the highest ranked drivers to actually be present for the first race there, and Nightwatch was the highest ranked finisher at Montalegre in Season 1. We've got Guti, Marcy, Jess and Pottersman, 3 new drivers, and obviously the delta time around this circuit is sort of around 3 to 4 seconds. Now, the first semi-final was fairly straightforward, as you would have seen. You know, Nightwatch and Guti Marcy were very, very, you know, comfortable at the front. Unfortunately, Frank Rose had a few issues at the back there and was unable to make it through into the finals there. But, you know, I think, you know, it was sort of all fairly, you know, sort of after the couple of laps, once everyone had taken their Jokers, it was fairly plain sailing for a few of the drivers right at the very front of the race there in the first semi-final of the evening. Moving on then, though, into the second semi-final, and this was going to be quite an interesting one because we had Roadrunner, Barry Kimmy, Pottersman, Mad Dog and Jess, and unfortunately, right from the very start, Jess did have a few issues. They're unable to get the car started originally, and then seeming to just struggle a little bit around the circuit. It was an interesting little battle, though, as we saw Roadrunner right behind Barry Kimmy there, as Pottersman was also trying to have a look through. But Barry Kimi, having already taken his Joker, was looking very, very strong. He was parked right up behind Potter's Man and Roadrunner there, and it was looking for Barry Kimi like it was going to be fairly textbook for him to try to make it through into the finals. Just keep it parked behind those two. Either wait for them to have a little bit of a squabble and try to nip through, or wait for them to both take their Jokers, and then obviously that will keep him out nice and comfortably in the lead there. Barry Kimi still was behind Potter's Man, after I think got to about lap 4 or lap 5 when they finally opted to take their Jokers. That left Barry Kimi comfortably out in the lead after everyone had obviously all taken their Jokers there. We had Roadrunner and Potter's Man just behind him there. Mad Dog and Jess, unfortunately, unable to make it through into the finals, and that left us with a 6-car duel to try and make it, try and score as many points as they possibly could. Potter's Man at the start was right behind Guti Marcy there, and we've seen Nightwatch as well was also, he was trying to hold on without taking his Joker lap early on in the race. We had 4 drivers opting to take their Joker right at the very start, which left the other 2, with a little bit of a breakaway there, and, if they were able to try and keep out of trouble, then, they were able to look very, very strong in the race there, and, if they could try and just build up a gap between the pair of them, then they could have led all the way through to the very end. But Barry Kimi, once more, there was a bit of contact down at the Joker on lap 1 there, and Barry Kimi seeming to just be able to get out of all the incidents once more, able to come away, with effectively the net lead of the race, able to close up to the 2 guys that had not opted to Joker lap just yet in the race there, and he was able to come through for the race victory once more.
Yeah, and overall, after reviewing all these 3 platforms, all these 3 weekends we had, maybe due to the nature of the track, we could have had surprising winners compared to what some people could be previewing, but obviously you talk that this track is very particular compared to the rest of the season. So next up will obviously be the English event at Leiden Hill, and we could see some different winners, some different contenders. What are we expecting out of Leiden Hill?
It's a very, very different track to Montalegre. The Joker around Leiden Hill is probably where drivers are going to find themselves either making up or losing out on a lot of time. It's quite a high-speed circuit on the whole, and then the Joker is very, very tight and technical. There's quite a horrible little chicane, to be honest with you, with very, very closed-up walls. But apart from that, a lot of the circuit is quite a gravelly / tarmac compound, so, it's very, very easy to try and keep up to some good high speeds. A few little alternate lines you can take around the circuit, but a lot of the guys, it's almost like driving, say, like a Formula 1 car in comparison to lines. You sort of want to be going slow in, fast out. Don't really want to try and kick out the back end as much as around some other circuits on the calendar. Leiden Hill sort of favours those that try and keep the car tidy and all in one piece.
Yeah, so it will be definitely very interesting to see, as it was Montalegre still, but this time around it will be a different kind of challenge. But that pretty much rounds this talk show episode. There's really not much else we can add. Obviously, don't forget to follow everyone involved, as myself, Matt, Dan on the PS4 side who makes the live streams. Obviously, Ryan, who will be commentating. He couldn't this time around. It had to be Matt, but he will be here for the next time around, we hope. And obviously, don't forget to subscribe to Fizzy, whose highlights video you're watching on his channel, probably. And obviously, if you're watching the talk show alone on my channel or Matt, doesn't really take too much effort to click the subscribe button. So that is pretty much it for this week. Thank you so much for joining us in our very first RX talk show. Hopefully a lot more to come. But that is all from me, and I'll let Matt round this up.
But yeah, obviously, thank you guys all so much for the support on the AOR RallyCross League. It's the action so far, as I said, is brilliant, and as you would have seen by the footage, a lot of close racing at the moment. So if you have got Dirt 4, you're free on Tuesday nights, I would highly recommend getting involved, and then obviously your footage can be featured as well in the highlights. But yeah, I think that's Pepper sort of rounded it up really well there on the whole. Obviously, if you're new, don't forget to subscribe to obviously Pepper, myself, or Fizz's channel, depending on where you're at. And hopefully, we will see you guys next time after Liddon Hill.